The first time I attended my girlfriend Joyce's friend gathering, after a few rounds of drinks, her male best friend pulled her onto his lap. With a cigarette dangling between his fingers, he grinned. "Call me Daddy!" Instead of getting offended, Joyce leaned into him, helpless but indulgent, and said, "Daddy." I froze, scowling, but she waved me off without a care. "It's just a joke. Lucius always never cared for the rules, and everyone knows we have a father-daughter vibe, okay? Don't get it all twisted, Henry. Aren't you a man?" Lucius became even more provocative, throwing a smoke ring at me. "Yo, son-in-law, aren't you going to bow to me? Come on, kneel and offer me a drink, and your dad's got your back." Everyone at the table burst into laughter as they waited to see me lose my temper and make a scene. I just smiled, meeting Joyce's impatient gaze with an excited expression. "That's great. I like the way you think. So why don't you call me Daddy too?" Everyone in the room froze for a moment before erupting in laughter and even louder jeers. "Holy crap, he's got balls. Is he trying to get Lucius to call him Daddy too?" Lucius's expression froze, clearly not expecting someone who always seemed so mild-mannered as me to react in the way I did. Quickly, his expression reverted to his usual roguish grin, his hand casually sliding over Joyce's waist. "My dear daughter, this new boyfriend of yours doesn't seem very smart. What's he trying to pull here?" Joyce's brows furrowed, clearly displeased. "Are you an idiot, Henry? Lucius was just joking with you, so why did you have to be so rude with him? Don't you have a sense of humor?" I replied calmly. "Wasn't he the one who told you to call him Daddy first? Since he wants to be a father, why can't I want the same?" Also, as I spoke, I raised my hand and smacked Lucius's head hard. "Hands off your daughter, you old lecher! How could you touch her like that? You're a father, you know?" Lucius cried out in pain and sprang to his feet, throwing the cigarette in his hand hard onto the floor. "Looks like I've been too nice with you, huh? No one talks to me like that." Joyce's expression darkened, and she banged her glass heavily on the table. "Apologize to him right now, Henry. I brought you here to introduce you to everyone, not to cause a scene. Can't you even take a joke? What a buzzkill. At this point, just leave." I looked at the hot cup of tea in front of me, before looking back up at Lucius's arrogant face. Slowly, I stood up and picked up the cup of scalding tea. Thinking I was backing down, Lucius shook his leg smugly and even gave Joyce a slap on the butt. "That's more like it, my son," and splash! I poured the cup of tea right over Lucius's head. "Ah!" His screams echoed nonstop. Joyce stared at me in shock. "Henry, have you gone insane?" I pulled out a piece of wet tissue and wiped my hand with a gentle smile. "What are you getting all worked up for? I'm just helping my son wash his face. He's already a father, but he's spouting crap all over his face, so I'm helping him clean up." Lucius wiped the tea off his face, roaring at Joyce. "Are you going to just watch, Joyce? Look at what he did." Joyce raised her hand, about to slap my face, but I grabbed her wrist and used her force against her, pushing her backward. She stumbled, almost falling flat onto the ground. I stepped forward, grabbed her by the collar, and forced her to bow toward Lucius. "You should be worried about your father instead of yelling at your grandfather, Joyce." Everyone around us was stunned. No one had expected me to move so decisively, as mild-mannered as I'd always been. Joyce struggled helplessly in my grasp, her face flushed dark red. "Let go of me!" After Joyce was released, she coughed repeatedly, glaring at me with venomous hatred. I looked at her foolish expression and brushed my hands together in disgust. She and I were in a marriage of convenience. My family wasn't as high profile as the Fosters in business circles, but my grandfather's authority in the military was a protective shield no money could ever buy. So, Joyce had no choice but to marry me. She resented all of it, so she decided to humiliate me today as some form of comeuppance. It was a shame that there was one thing she'd failed to consider. I'd trained in boxing since childhood and was proficient in kickboxing, grappling, and other martial arts. Anyway, if she wanted to play rough, who was I to refuse?